Let's have it.
Hello and welcome to the program. I am Ekene Ndulue. We begin this edition of the program with some key developments during the week's plenary sittings. And in the week, the Senate extended the implementation of the capital components of the 2022 Appropriation Act to June 30th, 2023. This is sequel to an earlier extension on Wednesday, 28 December 2022 by the legislators to March 31st, 2023. The extension is to run concurrently with the 2023 budget. The 2022 supplementary budget was also extended to run concurrently.
This was to allow full implementation of the budget, especially in the light of the 2022 supplementary budget approved in December 2022.
What the executive is asking, the request is to extend the lifespan of the implementation of the 2022. So that does not in any way stop or affect the implementation of 2023.
The Senate also passed the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Act Repeal and Reenactment Bill, which seeks to strengthen the nation's deposit insurance system. There was also an approval of President Muhammadu Buhari's request for the establishment of an additional 10 national parks in the country, as these are with a view to generating more revenue for the federal government. The new parks are to be located in Niger, Bayelsa, Kano, Jigawa, Kwara, Nasarawa, Osun, and Plateau states.
Those days, the Kaji National Park used to receive foreigners who come in to study the flora and fauna. I don't think the statistics is showing that trend anymore.
These parks will now be permanently manned by these park rangers under the new arrangement.
As the Buhari administration draws to a close, concerns may rise over what becomes of the National Social Investment Program. Well, the Senate is working to allay these fears as the bill that seeks to provide legal backing for the program has been passed.
The objective of the bill, that is the NSIP Establishment Bill, to provide a statutory and institutional framework for implementation of the National Social Investment Program. The agency will ensure more equitable distribution of resources to the vulnerable population.
The bill to codify the National Social Investment Program, to create an agency that will ensure that all the efforts of the federal government to address poverty, especially amongst the most vulnerable groups in the country, are properly attended to.
Outside of plenary, Chairman Senate Services Sani Musa said the leadership of the incoming 10th Senate should focus on unifying the country and correct all perceived imbalances in the nation. This was while briefing Senate correspondents on the election of the 10th Senate leadership.
We want a country where everyone will feel at home and united. And I strongly believe that the zoning policy that the party will come out with will address all the issues.
And speaking of electoral matters, there remains a lot of opinions flying around over the conduct of the recent general elections. Let's now get the perspectives of some legislators present and incoming on these and other issues in the national discourse.
Just give us your general assessment of Nigeria's democracy over the last 23, 24 years in the context of the just concluded 2023 general elections.
Well, we've had some pretty bad elections in the past. 2007 was quite terrible. But 2023 also, I thought we were evolving into, that the democracy was evolving, that the BVACs and the real-time transmission of results on the IREV would have actually improved the process, and it would have given credibility and legitimacy to the winners. But unfortunately, none of the things that INEC promised, they didn't deliver on any. And therefore, because we have a more aware electorate, they're not as complacent as they used to be a few years ago, maybe. So the sense of dissatisfaction is a lot more. And therefore, gives most people a sense of this democracy isn't working. People tell me that. And my answer is, so what's the alternative? The truth is that democracy can work, and it would work if we had more transparent and credible electoral processes. And that's the truth. Then the people would have more faith in the results.
What's your take on the independence, shall we say, of state institutions such as INEC, the police, the military, in terms of the elections? Do they need to be strengthened, or how do you see their own performance in the process?
Well, in some places, the police perform very well. In other places, because I've seen videos of all sorts of things happening, and in the video, the police are just standing by. But I must say that in the FCT, there were several attempts to truncate the collation processes all across the territory. And that did not happen because the police were on top of everything. Yes, anytime the hoodlums got into the collation center and started disrupting things before they could do any real damage, the police got there instantly and took them away. Same thing in Buhari. The soldiers came in because they were located in that area. So in some states, in FCT, I can't complain about the police. They did do a pretty good job. But in a lot of places, they have not been independent, so to speak. And as for INEC, I mean, I'm at a loss for words in most of the country, and even in some places here. But they're also very, just like everything else in Nigeria, you see good people and you see bad people, but also a lot of very good people. And I think part of the problem is not the people, but the whole state of the country. Most of the people are impoverished, so poverty has been weaponized. You haven't eaten all day and somebody offers you a little bit of money for something that you feel will not, whatever your opinion about it is, it wouldn't matter anyway, which is what most people say. This time a lot of people came out to vote because they had belief in the BVACs. But you could see how things changed for the gubernatorial elections because they had lost faith in the whole electoral process. So most people felt, don't waste my time. And unless there's some way of convincing them that the process will be more transparent, I don't envision people being even in the forthcoming elections. People are going to still have that same sense of apathy. Don't disturb me, my votes don't count.
But are you in any way optimistic in the process going forward into future elections? That things might improve?
If we change certain things, we have to find a way to make the chairman of INEC truly independent, have him not be appointed by the presidents. I haven't thought through the modalities of how he can be appointed in a manner that can make him truly independent. And all across the country, we need to have public officers be more accountable. It's not good enough for you to take 10 naira for this microphone and then you don't produce a microphone and you don't expect there to be consequences. So it's not, the problems are not unique to INEC or the police or anything else. It's all part of the general Nigerian issues.
You can measure the quality of an election by the behavior of the parties after the election process. It was expected that when an election takes place, a winner emerged, then he will extend his hands of friendship to those who lost, and also those who lost were expected to behave like sportsmen, to congratulate those who won. But you can see what has happened today. People are bitter, people are angry, people are frustrated. And you cannot blame them because you have risen their expectations so high. Nigerians have been told that if such amount of money, humongous amount of money is spent to deploy the necessary technology for these elections, that we are going to have a near perfect election in the history of our country. You can remember during Jaker's time when we were talking of direct data capture machine, DDC. Now that is history. Now it is IREV, it is BVAS, it is electronic transmission of result. Now with all this technology, rather than being a solution to our electoral problems, now it has even compounded it. Election is as important as the survival of the nation and the people that inhabit that nation. If you have an election that lives up to the standard of decency and in the light of what is in our constitution, there will be peace in the country. So as far as I'm concerned, I think there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. Because if we don't, we will spend more. If we conduct a free, transparent and credible elections, we don't need to spend money going to the court, paying lawyers, mobilizing people to protest every day. Now Abuja has become a hub of protesters, and that is not how it's supposed to be. So you cannot say that the whole election is bad, because there are places where opposition never thought they will win elections. They have won. But where it went wrong, there is need for us to sit down, assess the situation, and address it in order for our democracy to stabilize and also to give Nigerians a value for money.
My observation is not different from what the generality of Nigerians are saying. That the hype about this election, if you recall, I had a previous conversation with you here. My prediction was that we've had progressively better elections from Anambra to Ekiti to Osun, you know. So the expectation was that the general election, especially considering what the INEC people were saying, that this was going to be a far better election than we have ever witnessed. This election, you can hear, I think this is the one election that we have had the largest number of complaints from all over. Almost all the parties, apart from the APC that has been declared the winner, almost all the parties are complaining. You could even see protests on the streets, and I thank God that the protests have not gotten out of hand in such a way as to, you know, upset our society. You know, getting violent in terms of getting violent and all of that. But almost all the major parties are going to the tribunal. We will await what the tribunal will say. But as for sitting back and saying, oh, I'm satisfied with the way the election went, I don't think that's what Nigerians are saying, and that's not what I'm saying either.
All right. Obviously, you said that many across the country are dissatisfied with how the elections were conducted. You alluded to it just now about the conduct of Nigerians despite all of that. How would you, what commendations or otherwise would you give to Nigerians generally about their conduct post the elections?
Yeah, I already said that I was happy that whatever protests, whatever dissatisfaction Nigerians had, they never got violent, and it should stay that way, because the procedures and the processes of elections are still going on. If you are dissatisfied with an election, you go to the election tribunal. We see what happened with the Osun. The election tribunal nullified the election, but the Court of Appeal restored his victory back to him. So that is what we have. If you convince the tribunals or the courts that you have a good case, and even if the court of first instance does not satisfy your expectations, you can still go to the next level as prescribed for by the electoral laws. So Nigerians should continue to, because we need a country to continue to go on. Okay? If because we are dissatisfied with the election or whatever, we decide to get violent, we may progressively be killing our country. So I appreciate the fact that even with the dissatisfaction, there's no much violence there. There are pockets of violence here and there, but not on the level that we will be concerned about. Even those pockets of violence, I appeal to Nigerians to eschew that, so that we leave it in the hands of the court, because as they say, the court is the last hope of not just the common man, as they say, but of every Nigerian.
I thought that this time around we've gotten it right. If you win, you win. You lose, you lose. I mean, it's in an election, one person must win, one person must win, and the others will wait for another time. So, and I thought that this time around we are getting it right, where if you lose, you will see that you've lost, and if you win, you will see that you win, so that we all can come together and build a synergy towards developing the constituency, or giving the constituency a quality representation. That was my belief and my intention, but unfortunately, I did not see that happen in my own senatorial constituency. So that created a problem, and you could understand my mindset. And I came out and warned that, look, INEC should be careful for the next election, which was going to be the gubernatorial and the state election. Because in that 25th election, I tell you, people came out willing. In short, in some polling booths, there were no security. People didn't bother. There was no violence, nothing, because people believe INEC in total, that you vote after the BVAS, and there was no much problem with the BVAS accreditation. So what we are told was that after voting, you recount, it will be uploaded, not automatically, it will be uploaded to the server, and they will paste the result on the wall for everybody to see. That never happened, and I stand to be challenged. So that was what led to what you saw on the 18th, because people now knew that you can take it from anywhere. That's why you see that in addition to what happened, because it was from there people knew that you could bypass the beavers.
On the date of the election, I had very good and high impression of the elections, because I went and I was accredited, and beavers identified me, I voted, and there was cash crunch, and there was nobody asking for money on that day for the elections, unlike the usual situation. So I praised the elections to the high heavens. When I came out, I discovered that many things different were happening in a few other stations in Akwa Ibom State and generally in all over Nigeria. But it is not to the extent that people should call for the illegal dealing with the results of the elections. The Electoral Act and the Constitution had anticipated this situation, that there will be discontent. And so it provided that after the election, if you are dissatisfied with the election, if there is anything that is done in the course of the election, that you will proceed to the Election Petition Tribunal. So I want to urge that Nigerians should please approach the tribunals for any matter that you have reservations about. Now, I want to also urge Nigerians that if you are in the tribunal or in the court, leave the streets. If you are on the streets protesting the result of the election, please withdraw your contest or your complaint from the court and then deal with it on the streets. But the law does not allow you to deal with election protests over election matters on the streets. You can't be on the streets. Although there is a limit, there is a right to protest, but you cannot protest indefinitely, continually, and in a manner that disturbs public peace. And of course, when your protest crosses the red line, which is the level of national security, when your protest is asking for an illegal thing to be done to the result of an election, when your protest is asking for an illegality, then that protest does not have a right to be protected, has ceased to be a matter of right, and has crossed the red line. And on the aspect of the Independent National Electoral Commission, I would want to say that we should give them the benefit of doubt. Let me commend personally the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood. I appreciate his candor. I appreciate the level in which he has maintained studied and glorious silence, even in the performance of his duties, despite public criticism. Yes, he has a body and a commissioner and a part of the commission that speaks for him. But there are times that I thought that people would ordinarily think that he would lose his cool and respond. Let me appreciate him and appreciate the commission in the manner they have responded to all the allegations and questions concerning it. This was expected while the Electoral Act was being made. But I think that the little response they have been giving is not enough. They should come out defending certain and almost all of the actions. They should not only wait until they get to the court to file affidavit or to file some processes to defend what they did. They should be able to tell the public and win public confidence, win public applause in explaining what challenges they had. They had explained, but it's not enough, so that they could douse the suspicion of members of the public. They should also show that there are certain things that they would have loved to do, but the Electoral Act, as it is, did not allow them to proceed beyond that level. Let me ask the Independent National Electoral Commission that in the off-cycle election that we are expecting to happen in Ondo State, Bayelsa State, Imo State, and in Edo State, they should, having enough time, work on full electronic voting to test that as BVAS is recognizing your finger or your finger, and it records that that is you, that same process, either that process integrated or immediately after being identified, then you have another system that identifies the political parties, and then you thumbprint on the political parties and the one you want to vote for, and it will automatically reflect on the server, so that it will be known that that is you and this is where you voted for. And if you find out later that this is not where you voted for and it is recorded, you can answer questions, you can raise questions that the vote you voted for APC has been credited for Labour Party, or the vote you voted for PDP has been credited to Zenith Labour Party or to the Social Democratic Party. This is where they should be aiming at. But then, the National Assembly should think of urgently amending the Electoral Act to allow for a compulsory electronic voting. I know it is difficult. This is why they left the option of choosing how to vote on the Electoral Commission. But then, how does Canada, United States, France, Australia, the UK, Scotland, how do they do it? It is the same technology. It is universal. And of course, we should all be embarrassed, because those who provide these technologies for these countries, in all these countries I've mentioned, are Nigerians. They are Nigerians. So we should, and the technology is available unless we don't want to acquire it. And spending 400 million on this process should simply acquire this technology, so that INEC could clean its face, and for once, before Professor Mahmoud leaves, we should perfect this system and he leaves with a lot of glory.
Well, that brings us to the end of this edition of Senate 109. I am Ekene Ndulue. Thanks for watching and see you again soon.